I am humbled by the ocean and what God has created. And if you're not humbled by it, it'll humble you pretty quickly.
And there's a lot of sports where like, oh, I could do that. And this is definitely one of the ones that I went into being like, oh, I could do that. And then I got humbled real quick in the water. I was like, wow, this is actually so hard.
Man, when I'm not surfing, like there's something missing. If somebody said, we got to take this away from you, I would be so distraught.
Like since I stopped track, it's been like almost like a replacement.
Why do I surf?
I've always been into like individual sports, like stuff that's based off like your own personal progression.
It helps my mental health, it helps with all the family stuff, helps with community. I mean, it's kind of this all-in-one thing. For a lot of people, when you explain to you, like, you paddle out when it's dark still, I tell you what, we've met like some of the most amazing guys and gals that are out there in the morning. I think a lot of guys paddle out initially to surf, but I think a lot of us now are paddling out because we find one another.
I definitely think I would enjoy it more because you just like, it's more like I'm more of like a group, like event type person. So if there's like more people, I enjoy it usually more. I mean, I've had a few conversations with people in the water. They're always friendly. And you always see like on TV, like the very like stereotypical surfer.
You know, when we were younger, we'd paddle out and our conversations would be like girls and parties and all this stuff. And
like, oh my gosh, dude, like, yeah. But not a lot of people are really like that.
Now, guys are like, who's your hip doctor? And, you know, where's this going? You know, talking about that stuff.
It's also just like a lot of normal people in the water, but like just their knowledge about the sport. Like, I feel like that's what really sets them apart.
In many respects, growing up, I remember being as a teenager, I watched a lot of fights that happened in the water. It was territorial and people would get angry. And I've watched over the years, a different Virginia Beach. And so, yeah, Virginia Beach has grown. In many ways, I guess it's grown up. And it's not this angsty teenager, and it's definitely a culture where everybody is gracious and a bit more forgiving. I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch, but it's definitely one that invites others in, where I think some places aren't as inviting.
Are you cool if I touch on like race? Definitely think that just because there's not a lot of black people in the water shouldn't discourage you to do it, because they're honestly very welcoming. Like, it's a very welcoming community. I know the first time I went out with a buddy who's also like black, we ran into a few guys and they were just straight up. I didn't take offense to it or anything. They were straight up. They were like, it's really good to see you guys out here. And I also had this conversation with Nick. He was like, yeah, like it's like, I'm glad you guys are like surfing, because to be real, there's just not a lot of like black surfers. And I was like, yeah, I have noticed that. I don't know if it's just the area, but then I think, I'm like, we're in Hampton Roads, there's a lot of black people in Hampton Roads. So it's like, it's not just that. But I think I think it comes down to like accessibility to the sport. And everybody's also always like, yeah, I'm so glad that you guys are out here. Like, we always wonder, like, aren't there any black surfers? But they're always like, we don't have the answer because we're not black, you know? But no, I definitely don't think that should be like a discouraging factor.
The ones who surf during the winter, it's not because they get to, it's almost because they have to. We have people who leave their wetsuits in their car, and so they'll pull it out. There's like icicles on it because they've left it in there. So it's definitely more challenging in the winter, but after a while you get used to it.
So when I found this, it was just like another like since I stopped track, it's been like almost like a replacement for that. So honestly, I know that like if you want to get good at something, you have to put the time in for it. And so, I mean, it like, when I like correlated to track, like I trained in all sorts of weather. So I guess when I compare it with surfing, it's about the same. I mean, if I want to get better, I have to be out there, no matter what the weather is.
Last winter and the winter before, had an absolute blast. And what I loved about that, other than the wetsuit stuff, like obviously when you're in the winter, you got to throw on your 5'4" and booties and gloves, and you have a hood, and so all you're just like this much of your face is out. But I love it because in those seasons, at least not this last winter, but the winters before, you had great surf, but there were so few people out there, because there's a lot of people that like they're just the summer crowd. They'll come out when it's warm, and they'll drive down from Richmond, as far as Richmond, and they'll surf when they see that Surfline is showing even mediocre waves, and they all drive down, and it's packed. I mean, just you can look, and it's shoulder to shoulder. In the wintertime, you paddle out, and there's 7, 10 guys, and everybody's just, enjoying their time. The spiritual aspect, I sit out there, those are the times when I've just kind of, God, thanks. Like, I've processed this situation and this thing that happens when you're just sitting and waiting on your board for the next set.
For me personally, like my favorite part about surfing is like when you're just out there, you're not even surfing, you're just sitting on the board, like out past the break. Cause it's like, you're just really enjoying like what God has created.
And so I think surfing and teaching me patience in the water has helped me to be patient in life.
You don't always have control of everything, because the water's gonna do what it wants to do, honestly. So you have to either just go with it.
I was pretty shook up because I went to the doctor the other day, and I think it could like cause a lot of anxiety or whatever. He's like, hey, you have cancer, and so we're gonna have to cut the stuff out of your back. And like just today I got the stitches out, so it's been a couple weeks of like milling that over. And I think if 5-6 years ago me would have just been terrified and high strung and all this. And when he told me, he's like, hey, you have cancer, we're gonna have to do surgery, I was like, all right.
Definitely worked on my patience. I've never been much of a patient person. So having to be out there and like wait for like the perfect wave, or just like, honestly just like enjoying nature. Like it's definitely given me that sense of just like calmness.
Plenty of times I've paddled out and dropped into a wave and stood up, and as you're right, just thinking like, man, if I can do this, I know I can tackle that next thing in life. And so I think there's surely a spiritual aspect to it. Surfing is that community and joy kind of all entangled into one, where you kind of forget all the stuff that's happening on the outside, and you just get to enjoy trying or attempting at your very best, kind of harnessing what God's created.
Don't let like all the failures like discourage you from keeping to do it, because it's gonna take time. Honestly, just even like learn the basics. And it takes a toll on your body, honestly. Either you're getting like thrown around, or like you're just physically exhausting yourself.
It's just that feeling that it's unlike anything else. It's pretty great.